Hey, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Lost Like Mike. I am your host, Mike Gonzalez. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for leaving comments. And thank you for all the emails at lostlikemike@gmail.com. Coming in late this week. So it's a different story this time. I had this last minute plan to start doing the recording on Saturday night or Saturday at some point. And the motivation behind that was, so my daughter ended up saying to her mom, to my wife, she said, I don't like Dad doing his show because he doesn't get to come out with us. He doesn't get to do things with us. The big deal was that they were going to go to a theme park on Sunday, which is the day that I normally record if you're keeping track. But I normally will be out with them or be doing something with them and say, well, I gotta go do something and go take care of it. I play shows every weekend, so that factors in there too. But in her mind, she thinks that me doing the show takes away from family time. Apparently that's her feelings. So they had this big plan this past weekend to go to this theme park. So I said to myself, I'm going to do the show super early, like the day before or whatever. And I'm just going to surprise her and commit to spending the whole time with them. And so first of all, we went to this theme park. And a couple things. There's this big zip line that goes really high. I wish I had measurements, but it just, it's like several stories high. It's very high. And it goes like in this curve. And it's like, it doesn't go up to a building. There's a freestanding pole. Okay. And it's across this man-made lake. And at the other end of this big lake is this pole that extends, very high, several stories high. And there's these what looks like 3 to 4 big wires. I think it's like 3 to 4 wires. And then this opened, shelled, like vehicle. It's just like, it looks like a boat with no sides, right? Just like this. And there's 4 chairs, 2 on each side of this, carriage, okay? And you get strapped into these chairs, and then it takes you up to the way top of this pole, and then you zip back down. You can either zip very fast, or they can adjust the speed to where it just like kind of slowly comes down these cords or whatever. So number one, let me start off by saying, no, okay, I'm not going to do that. I would never in a million years say, you know what I want to do this weekend? I want to put myself in a position where I'm going to cry like a little girl. Or I'm going to put myself in a position where I'm going to get all the rest of my white hair in because I'm going to be terrified. There's just no reason. I have no inclination. It's equally as hard for me to watch my daughter do it and my wife, because all the anxieties that you don't want and you're not wanting to find yourself going out and getting are all right there wrapped up in one convenient little package, okay? And at first, before I went to this trip with my family, I had made it very clear. Don't ask me to do it. I'm not interested in doing it. My daughter thinks it's like the best thing since Wonder Bread. She wants to do it like 10 times while she's there, you know? So that's the first thing she wants to show me when we get there. She said, I want to show you this zip line, okay? So I said, it's the least I could do. I can just grin and bear it. I can deal with the anxiety. I can just, coach myself and talk about how no theme park would want any sort of risk of liability. I'm sure they super reinforce blah, 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 right? I convince myself that they're in the safest hands possible. It's a reputable theme park, blah, 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 blah. So they get onto this ride. And I even excused myself. I said, you know what? I'm going to go over here, off to the side so I could film and take pictures for y'all, whatever. And so I go to this gate that faces the lake so that I can watch them go up. Okay. And here they go. They get strapped in, and I'm listening. There's several employees that are. You could tell one guy's training this other guy, and then there's like another individual there, or one or two individuals messing with their straps and stuff. He was telling him about the multitude of straps, and there's this kind of strap and that kind of strap, and there are all these fail safes within these, to make sure that nobody can, even if they wanted to try to get off of the ride while on the ride, there was all these fail safes that prevent them from just outright falling off of this ride. And I'm thinking, don't say falling off, right? But I'm just, I'm trying to be chill. I'm just looking forward. I'm seeing them get sort of strapped on and getting ready to go. Okay. Wouldn't you know, they get on this ride, and here it goes. It's going up and up and up. And I'm staring at this pole in the distance, and it's so tall. And I'm just like, oh my word, this is stupid. This is incredible. But why, dude? Why would you even want to do it, right? So there it goes slowly all the way up, and they start, my eyesight's bad, so they start getting blurry and turning into just two figures on this square box that are going all the way to the top of this pole. And then it stops at the top. And I'm like, I wonder how fast it's going to shoot down, and I'm preparing my heart for it. And then I hear from behind me, the guys that are just talking, the employees. One says, oh, come on. Not again. Every Sunday. Why does this always happen? And I turn, is it stuck? And they don't have any cell phones. They don't have anything up there in this little box floating like at the top of this pole, over ground, which is where the pole is, just past overlooking this giant lake. So they ignore me, and they're like, we're calling somebody right now to fix it. Right. And I'm thinking, this is my worst nightmare. Here we go. They're dangling over, 60, I don't know how many feet up in the air, and there's no ladder. What are you going to do? Put a ladder up and get them down? Are you going to call the firemen and tell them to bring a boat? I mean, what are we talking about here, right? So I want them to be relaxed, right? I don't want them to panic. So I say, everything's okay. You know what I mean? You're just going to be a few minutes, right? I'm trying. Well, God bless technology, right? She calls me on my watch, from her watch, right? She's like, yo, like, and I know that she's like, you're speaking out of my watch. So I said, oh no, they said that since you're the first ones writing it, that y'all can have a little extra time up there to look at the lake and stuff, and I hear my daughter say, "Oh, is that what's happening?" or something like that. And my wife caught on and was like, "Yeah, that look, there's some turtles. Let's look at the water, and whatever." And it felt like they were up there for like 10 days, but it was really more like 15 minutes. I mean, I've been on an elevator and landed on my floor, which was probably the first floor, and the doors took 1 second longer to open than normal, and nearly had a panic attack. If I would have been stuck at the top of a pole for 15 minutes, I mean, I don't even want to think about it. It was traumatic it was more traumatic for me than it was for them, and they were in it. I'm talking, they came down very slowly because they had to manually do it with like the buttons, because apparently the computer, everything was programmed on the computer. So you're supposed to it's supposed to say, get to the top, come back down. And something just said, nah, we're good. You can stay up here. And so they had to flick this button and do it. And the 4 employees that were there didn't know how to do it. They had to call special, mechanics or whatever, game attraction mechanics to do it, which, whatever. It was resolved in pretty quick fashion. But no, my daughter gets off and says, we're going to get on it again, but they have to run it one time all the way through to make sure everything's good or whatever. And they did. They ran it. They went up and did it again. And this time they did it, on super fast. So when they got up to the top, zoom, it comes down. And I see my daughter, she has her hands up in the air as they come down. I'm like, I mean, that's a child that has no concept of like any sort of distrust of the establishment. You know what I mean? Like, that she just believes hook, line, and sinker that if you're at a place like this, then their stuff's gold. In my mind, I'm watching these flashes of videos in my head of roller coasters, or carnival attractions coming apart at the seams. I remember my sister told me a story when I was young, or maybe it was my parents telling me a story of my sister. But you don't know what how these stories will traumatically impact it. But she was on some type of roller coaster at one of those rinky-dink carnivals that they set up at the side of a highway, and in some parking lot of a grocery store, and somehow something happened, and she got whiplash, like it hurt her neck, and so I've always had I've always been slightly, I guess, in the back of my mind, always thinking that bad things can happen on these things that are supposedly trustable. I remember we went to one, my daughter and I. It was a kiddie park kind of, like small coasters and stuff, and she was about to get on one with that had these airplanes that go in a circle, and she was about to get in, and she saw this big roach, and she said no, and just said, I'm not getting in this, and we dipped out. I mean, I just have a healthy lack of trust in machines that are put together by people that, with no dental plan. I don't know. I went with my son to one. It was this giant one of those playhouses where there's mirrors and stuff, I guess, and these little paths and stuff. and he nearly fell off of the side of this because of the side walls were not constructed correctly, and I grabbed him at the last second before he went off the side of like basically like a second story, slide area. And people always say, like, I don't think that helicopter parents are just like born paranoid. I really don't. I think that they were either burned or made into being like overly protective. I mean, I remember my son was jumping behind me, and on this bed, it was a giant bed, and I was like, settle down. You need to sit down. Stop jumping. Stop jumping like that. Whatever. And his hands are on my neck, and I'm thinking everything's fine, and he's bouncing up and down. And then he just falls forward, like, and I tried to react. I tried to turn, and he fell, and he busted his lip, because on an ocean of a bed, pillows, blankets everywhere, he falls and somehow angles himself to hit the nightstand perfectly to bust his lip, into which he had a scar. He probably has a faded scar of one even to this day. There you go. So there, and then I become like a hyper vigilant, helicopter parent. And just when you try to be a little bit, every time you open up a little bit and be like, I'm not going to hover, and that's the next time they fall over, or the next time they get popped in the head, or whatever it is. It never fails. Anyway, but that was our introduction to the theme park. That was the first thing that happened. We had a good day at these giant playgrounds that were there and her little cousin, my niece, was there, and so they were playing on this playground, and they have this little mock fishing area where you can put real live bait and fish in these waters for these catfish and these different types of fish. And I was messing with shrimp, so trying to hook them on this line. And so I was sitting here at this fishing area, and everybody got bored, and they went to go to the playground area. And then I finally just said, what am I doing? Like, why not I'm going to go make this day special for these kids. I'm going to try to have fun with them. I don't really need to be over here like messing around with these fish or whatever. So I used to have this charm with kids, and where I would take my son to the playgrounds, and I remember I used to like it. We'd go to this park by where my parents lived, and my dad, who was out of context, it seemed sweet. He would sit there on the side on these benches, and he would watch us play. But knowing that he was sort of holding on, like he was dealing with the disorientation, and his mind was slipping from him, and he wasn't able to do a lot of the things that he wanted to be doing. It was all the more bittersweet, like to be there with him. But I remember thinking, my son would be there at this park, and we would be hanging out, and I'd be like, introduce yourself, or make friends, or do something, like let's play around. And so I would rally around, get a couple kids, and we would start saying we're going to play like helping tag, and we're going to get everybody involved. And the next thing you know, we'd have everybody in the park. All the kids would be in this one big group playing together. And I remember I used to like that dynamic of being able to to play with these kids and get them all to want to be involved. And so we were there, and I was talking to my daughter, and I said, what's she was pouting a little bit, and I said, what's wrong, man? What's the problem? And she was saying how her little cousin, she had known these two kids that were there from a separate deal. Like somehow these kids were there, and so her little cousin was playing with them a little bit more because they knew her. And so I said, well, this is a playground. This is where everybody's going to be playing together. Like, let's see about that, right? So I said, we're going to play a game, and they were like, well, what are we going to play? I was like, all right, well, I'm going to be shrimp hands because my hands smell like shrimp, and you don't want me to catch you with my shrimp hands. But if I catch you, then you got to help me catch everybody else. And so we were going to do that. And the next thing you know, kids start coming up and saying, what are y'all doing? And then everybody starts chasing everybody and yelling, shrimp hands, shrimp hands. It was pretty great. It's like that kind of memories that I wonder if she's going to remember all that kind of stuff. One day I was driving with her, and I said, do you remember? It was like one of the first birthdays that we had this bouncy house, and it was kind of like, people were jumping around in this bouncy house, and I said, all right. And I started running around the outside of the jumpy house, and it had these big net walls, and she was so little, but she got such a kick out of me running around and pretending to be this monster, like, and all her little cousins and stuff were squealing and laughing, and it seemed to make the whole thing a lot more. And I said, do you remember? And I think she just said yes to be like cool or whatever. Like, yeah, sure, for sure. Yeah, Dad, I remember when I was 4 or 3 or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she did, but I like to think that some of those memories will stick around, after all. But it was fun, but I think I had like a ton of steps, and then I started going to my show after that. I was exhausted when I got back from the theme park. I was like, man, I could just lay here for a couple hours, and I had like 10 minutes, and I had to like get dressed and take off. But it was kind of cool. We played a show. I'll tell you, on Saturday, we played, and for 3 hours, nobody tipped us. There was $7 in the jar, which is like one guy dropped that at the beginning. And I mean, it wasn't like they weren't clapping, you know what I mean? It wasn't like they weren't. It's just, for whatever reason, they weren't dropping that money. And so we were in the fourth set, in the fourth hour, and I just started getting kind of snippy about it. Like, and then it was a couple songs before the ending, and somebody yelled, hey, play Freebird or whatever. And I just had it, man. I was like, you know what? I was like, that's an expensive song, and you haven't earned it. like none of y'all have earned it. I was being a little bit like snooty about it, but I was mad, man. Like, I mean, tips don't make or break somebody, but it's kind of nice. That's your blow off money, right? That's you make good tips, and already at the top, I split my tips with my wife. That's my rule. When I come home, I give her half the cash, and it's always funny because I put all of her money in this one jar, and she's like, doesn't even know how much is in this jar. She just lets it ride for like 6 months. And then I'm always super jealous of how much money she has, more than I have, But anyway, we get to the last song, and I mean, I just said, I don't care. I didn't say it on the microphone, but in my mind, I was like, I don't care about the people. I don't care about nothing. I'm just going to jam this song out hard and have fun. And we just got cooking and started just ripping. And it was a blast. I was playing the hell out of it. And ironically, like, I was engaged. I was so focused on having fun and playing, like, just letting loose, that I was like, well, that sounded pretty good, or because I'm not a trained, like, lead guitar player by any means. I try to learn, all I can or whatever. But anyway, it's just, I was jamming, man. I was having fun. And people started throwing cash in like crazy and yelling and hollering, and it's like a 10-minute song. But by the end of it, like, we had people threw in like 10 times the amount that was in there, like just a ton of money off of one song. Felt pretty good. But there was a couple, and we're putting up our stuff, and they were like, yo, like, are you going to be here tomorrow? And we're like, yeah, actually we are. We're going to perform tomorrow night. And so they were like, well, we'll see you then. And when I saw them the next night, the next day I went up and talked to them about it, and they said, oh, we love the way y'all play that one song. They were here from the year before. They had come out to watch us the year before. And they were in town again a year later, and were like checking local listings for like events and things going on in the city, and they were pleasantly surprised to see that we were going to be out, but they made it out for like the tail end of the show. And so they were going to come out, and watch us the whole time. And they didn't get the vibe that it was. And look, they busted out with this, like, with his phone camera. I mean, they had pictures of us, like, my arm around the guy, like, hey, whatever. And I was like, dude, I'm sorry, dude. I said, sometimes I can remember somebody's name from a year ago, and I don't know how I know it. But sometimes I don't remember where I was at yesterday. It's just the way it is. Like, that's just, sometimes things click in my head, sometimes they don't, and I could not remember these people. But they had videos and pictures from the year before, and then they had videos and pictures from that night. And I was like, man, I gave them my number. I said, hey, man, send me some of these pictures, They didn't, but I don't know why they didn't, because it was like, hell yeah, we're going to send you some stuff, whatever. But the reason I said it was because they had gotten there for that last song, and like in true form, y'all played it, like y'all do. And I was like, did you seem like I was mad at all, I don't know. And then the next night, I mean, I think it was a good show. But again, we made most of our money off of one person. It's just strange. This one guy came up and he's like, I want you to play this song. And I said, well, I don't know it, but if you sing it, we'll play it. And he was like, deal. And so he throws a 20 in, and then I look at the bar, and his wife's like making faces, like shaking her head, being like, this guy's about to embarrass me. So I was laughing and joking with the lady, saying, like, don't worry, this is gonna be fun or whatever. And I kind of knew the song, but so I said, look, I'm gonna play it off, I'm gonna sing it, and you just make it like you're singing it. And it came out good, man. In the middle of it, the lady came back and dropped another 50. And it felt nice to be appreciated or whatever. Speaking of which, as rare as an occurrence as the recent eclipse that we had, I legitimately was I would have to say it was a legitimate case of being hit on. Never happens, okay? But there I was, right after we get done, there's like a karaoke one that goes on. And so we're always lugging our crap and putting it on our designated spot. And as the karaoke people are setting up and starting to perform, and this one guy was up there, and I just finished taking one load of stuff up there. I think it was my cords and bags or whatever. And I was coming back to get one or two final items. And this guy was singing. And it's the great thing about karaoke is that sometimes people purposely will go up knowing they're going to sing bad. And that's like the whole bit is like, see how bad I'm going to be or whatever. Because this guy was really bad, but whatever. So I'm grabbing my backpack or whatever, and then this lady comes up to me. She's like, do you work here? And I was saying, and yeah, well, I'm a musician. I was playing. Did you need help? What'd you need? And she was like, and you could tell she was a little bit tipsy. What's up? Where's that guy? There's a guy singing. And I was like, oh, we're right over here. Like I said, come over this way. And I set up on that main stage. They're doing a karaoke. I mean, it's not like I didn't say it like 10 times when I was on the mic in between songs saying stick around for the karaoke, right? I mean, it's not like I did that, but that was when I got the vibe that it was not, that it had less to do with what was going on. And she was like, okay. Oh, and she was like, what's your name? And she put her hand out to shake my hand. And I was like, it's not like I didn't say it 10 times when I was on stage, on mic and, whatever. But I was like, all right. I said, go sign up and sing on karaoke if you don't want that guy to sing anymore. And she started giggling, started laughing or whatever. So, well, she was about to go in a whole nother thing. And I said, oh, gotta go. And I grabbed this speaker and I ran, you know what I mean? But anyway, that right there will get me through like probably another 6 months of feeling like good about myself. It doesn't take much. No. She was like, I'm so-and-so. And I'll tell you what, I can't even remember what she said because I was like, is this person actually introducing themselves to me? What is happening? I had to go check if it was a full moon. I was like, what's going on here, man? That's funny. But it was very pleasant. That's funny that I said that. Anyway, so we're super late. This is coming in on a Monday night, and so I'll post this as soon as I can. get it out there. Next week is going to be, I think we did like 5 shows the previous week. This next week is going to be like, there's going to be the 9 show week that we normally have every now and then, where I'm going to play Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 2 shows Thursday, and then Saturday and Sunday is like 8 shows. And if I could break off, there's a couple more during the day that I'm right now saying I'm not going to do, but like several of the shows, the reason I bring this up is because I'm helping out my cousin's band. And to be honest with you, I don't know what I'm doing for them this time. I think they have all the players. I'm just going to be the universal player. Sometimes I'll be on guitar, sometimes on bass, sometimes singing lead. I really don't know. I'm just this auxiliary player. I mean, I think at some times I'm going to be just playing tambourine or woodblock or whatever. But he does both English and Spanish music. And so they have certain key players that they like to use, that play for the Spanish music. And on when I usually play bass for them, but I mean, we'll just have to see what they're going to do, because it is what it is. But I almost tapped out and said, because I feel like, in a way, I feel like they're just having me out there because I was there last year. You know what I mean? Like, in a sense of loyalty, which they have to a fault. So I wonder sometimes if they're just keeping me on board. If that's the case, I don't really need it, to be, if it's a pity gig, you know what I mean? Like, they're just, no, it's cool. You were here last time. Like, just, whatever. And I'll find out tomorrow, because tomorrow night they're going to have a rehearsal. And I'm just going to be like, look, if I'm just a cheerleader in the background, and y'all don't want me, I mean, really need me, then, because it's not my bag, you know what I mean? I'm just doing it to be a part of the team and hang out and whatnot. But anyway, that was not well thought out. I started messing with this light thing, thinking I could do it with one hand. And, I guess I could. No, I couldn't. Anyway. One of my coworkers, I think I talked about it briefly, and I'm going to kind of keep it vague and just say it's a general story. 3 of her brothers have passed away in the last, we'll say like 18 months. Like, it's in the time that I've known her. So that's like, and if I'm not mistaken, all 4 of her brothers have passed away. But just 3 of them in the last 18 months, right? And one sort of recently, just this past week, and it really got me thinking. Just, first of all, just like I feel a deep sense of sadness for her, because that's too much to endure for one. I think it's just an unfair amount of loss in such a short period of time. And I don't really know what to do with that information, but as far as how it translates into life lessons, or what that means for the rest of us, other than to truly know the fragility of our time here, and just to value it and to the fullest extent, I guess. But earlier in the month, I was thinking of, she was telling me about her father who has a medical condition, a pacemaker, and was going to go in for a procedure. And he's really an older man. And so my thoughts were going towards, I pray that he's okay. And, you know, I mean, so when she was telling me that she just got a phone call, I thought, okay, well then it must be about the father. And then she went on to talk about that something was happening with the brother. And I thought, I just didn't see it coming, you know. But I think in the truest sense of the terms, you know, she often talked about the close relationship she had with her siblings and how they were on group chats and they constantly were getting together. They would message, hey, we're going out tonight. Anybody want to join? And like random members of the family, you know, brothers and sisters would bring their kids and they would meet up at some place and have dinner together or go out. And every weekend they're doing something as a family. Every weekend they were hanging out. And so even though it's very sad that she's lost these family members, I do think that that's envious. I mean, that's awesome that they had that close-knit relationship. It's awesome that they had that closeness in general. Where I haven't talked to my brother since Christmas. You know, haven't talked to my sister. I've texted her, but haven't talked or seen her since probably Christmas. So, and I'm blessed to have them alive and maybe a couple miles away in certain cases. I mean, you know, but it's relative, you know what I mean? Like, in certain, like, I don't know, I think it's like friendship that we talk about, you know, it's equal to the effort that you put into it, and I get that. But I do have to recognize that's a problem. But I don't know if it's a conscious thing, you know what I mean? Like, is it that they're so busy building their own lives or am I so busy building my own life? You know what I mean? What is it that has set that up? You know, my mom used to always warn about it because she wasn't close to her siblings. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing I would not do for them. But as far as like having a close-knit relationship, it's like, or a constant relationship like I see in other people. I don't know. But I would definitely acknowledge it's something that needs to change, or at least have some sort of plan to rectify on some level, or acknowledge that this is never going to change and move on. Because to say it's right, it's just not right. Anyway, that's kind of a drag to leave it on. But I guess I'll try to get back on maybe Saturday or Sunday. I'm trying to build it in such a way that my daughter won't feel like I'm prioritizing the show over her, because that's never been the case in all this nearly 100 episodes. which, by the way, I'm going to have to like recognize and do something to acknowledge that when it is the 100th episode, because that's quite the accomplishment for me. But I think we're still like 93 or 94, something like that. But anyway, please hit me up and message me at lostlightmike@gmail.com, or and I'll respond to you, promise. And I will see y'all next week. Take care of yourselves.